Hi, do people come up to you and tell you, when hearing about your ideas, that you should write a book someday? Well, I am with my friend and author, Brian Altenbach, who experienced that so often that he did write a book. And we are here to tell you all about it. I'm Jennifer, the traveling publisher, and Brian here is the author of an awesome book called Honor the Diamond, Developing True Character from Within. We're going to tell you about how he did just that. Thanks for joining us, friends. So Brian, hi, thanks for coming here today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We're actually in a van.
Yeah, we are.
We're in a van today. So again, I usually do this in my Honda Pilot, which I call Joy, but I rented this van.
Go.
And so thank you for joining me.
Awesome. Thank you for asking me to come along.
So tell me about this. I remember when we first met, you told me something that I thought was so fascinating. You said people would hear you speak and they'd say, you should write a book.
Well, it's interesting about where it actually came from. It actually came from being on the baseball field as an umpire.
Exactly.
That's where it came from. And what I noticed is playing with, getting out on the field, I would see just certain behaviors, both from the kids and also from parents.
And the parents.
Oh, yeah. So it was one of those that I'm like, I need to reach out. I need to do something. So through my efforts, I came across something on Facebook. Don't know who the author is, but I came across a speech that I said, there it is.
There it is.
And so what I ended up doing is I started, giving the speech time and time again. I would interact with the kids, literally talking about how to take care of their own character and say, no, people are watching you all the time. And as that happened, and inevitably throughout conversations, people are like, you have a book? And I'm like, well, I've been thinking about it. So that's kind of where it is. That's kind of how it kind of manifested.
That's tremendous. And Brian, you have a really awesome nickname because you're an umpire, and they gave you this awesome nickname.
Well, affectionately over the years, because it's been about 6-7 years in the making, where it came down to the nickname is Speech Umpire.
Speech Umpire, which makes
or
sense.
Speech Ump, yeah.
And so it's so interesting to me that how long have you been an umpire?
Off and on, I've been around the game of baseball my entire life. In all honesty, my first game I've ever umpired, I was 16.
Wow.
What happened was my brother was playing a game I was watching, and at one of the lower fields, I had someone come by and say, hey, we need an umpire. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I went down, and affectionately umpires are known as blue, but what I was, but inevitably what I was wearing that day was all red. So I had my first game there, and in all honesty, that's also where some character was tested, because I had a coach that was not wanting to throw the team back on the field, and I just simply told him, well, like, you got the count of 3 or the game's forfeited.
You gave the coach a count of 3 about his character.
Yeah.
And I love that your book is about character, because as a parent, I have seen a lot of behavior from, everywhere, and adults as well. And character is something that, is just so important. Can you talk a little bit about that, what you see on the field and off the field?
Well, baseball in itself is a game about challenge and overcoming challenges all the time. And I just pointed out not too long ago where I just looked and I said, baseball there's a failure in every pitch.
Oh.
When you really think about it, if the pitcher's throwing the ball and it's called a ball, that's a failure. Because he's looking at trying to get a strike.
Gotcha.
Now, on the other hand, if you get a strike, he's successful, but the batter failed.
Oh my goodness, that's a good point.
And either he failed because he didn't swing, or he failed because he didn't hit the ball completely, or he failed because he completely missed the ball.
Right.
But there's failure in all that. So everywhere along the game, it's a game of failure and adapting. And that's kind of where I was taking a look and letting people know that, it's a part of life. And for me, baseball resembles life so much. So that's where I kind of taken a look, and, that's how it just kind of kept coming about. Just kept looking. So
well, that's tremendous. And I think that in your book you talk about these character traits, and you share these amazing anecdotes about baseball. And so your book is wonderful for any parent, any child, but especially someone who loves baseball. And so can you tell me about the character traits that you talk about in your book?
Kind of go through, and I got to remember them offhand because I've had to add 2 extras that were not part of the speech. But the speech is you have courage and faith, which are the 2 that I had to add into. But be compassionate, be grateful, be humble, be honest. And that's kind of where that's how I end the speech. just letting them know. So,
and let's share a little bit about the speech. So when would you actually give the speech?
well, what would happen is as we get to the game, we usually go over ground rules, making sure things are there. We usually have the kids line up, do the Pledge of Allegiance. And as we did that, they would all start to run. I'm like, oh, nope, stay here, guys, stay here. And what I would do, and I'll give it here, I'm like, gentlemen, your character is more important than how good you are at any sport. Athleticism is temporary, but your character, the type of man you are, will last forever. Be compassionate, be grateful, be humble, be honest.
That's awesome. And that is
play ball.
And that is the speech
that is
in this book.
Right there. That's where it is. And each of those traits, I've had, an experience happen right on the field, where I got to encourage them to have a little bit of courage, or to be a little bit humble in making a mistake and being able to come back, or trusting yourself, or having that faith to do the right thing, and kind of go through that end. And then inevitably, as you're walking around and talking with other people and see people out in the community, hey, you're the speech ump, aren't you? Yeah, how's it going? And then ultimately they would tell you about a little experience that happened with them that tied right into it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's kind of like the book over the course of your life has sort of wrote itself with these anecdotes.
In essence, yeah. And it's just paying attention and looking, and that's really where it is. Because for me, when you really think about baseball in of itself, it is a 1% of the population that you think about people playing. You're talking
That's
36 professional teams.
Yeah.
And, from recreational ball, from all the kids that play from recreation to the time where they get playing in major leagues and all, that number really dwindles down. So what's going to be more important? More important is going to be how you conduct yourself in life.
Absolutely.
That's and where that is. And for me, the whole essence for this, it's not just about the game, but it's about having the kids create their own legacy. I want them to know that they are going to be able to speak, and when when their name's called, or when they're, coming about, that they can say, people can go, kind of like they do with me. Hey, you're the speech ump, right? And they have that excitement, they have that enjoyment, and they have that peace. So, that's kind of where I kind of hope to pass along and get the message out.
That's tremendous. And tell me a little bit about the actual writing of the book. Did you write it straight through, or did you sort of tackle different stories at different times?
No, literally how it came about, in all honesty, I had about a good 6-7 year block.
Oh, wow.
It was because of some of my own personal issues got in the way. Which inevitably arrived around baseball.
Isn't that ironic?
It is.
It's a little irony there.
In fact, my dad at one point in time told me that, when I was looking to do well and I was peeing, and I kind of was talking about how I accomplished some things in one day, in one game, I was sharing it with my dad, and my dad thought I was bragging. Oh, it's okay. But what he did is, his comment to me was, "You're a dime a dozen."
Oh.
So, but for me, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what? I'm trying to reinforce what I'm doing. I want to talk. I want to do it more. But I never realized how much that impacted me.
Sure.
And what happened was, as I would go through and people would talk about writing or talk about other things I've accomplished, it was like, I'm like, that's okay. Anyone can do it. And that was a hook that really got, because it came down to who's going to listen. Who's really going to hear this? What's really, and inevitably, how it really came about was right after a game, I had an incident with a parent. I think I actually had to throw a parent out.
Wow.
And then right after that, at work, I had another question of character just coming into play. And finally, I said, "That's it." I got off that hang up. Got off. I said, "No, it's time. This is where it needs to go." So I just went back and thought about the different interactions, and the very first one that really kind of came to mind was an interaction that I had at a tournament up in Williams Township, and it was about being honest.
Oh boy.
That was the first one that was really true and just wrote itself because of the interaction. And that you'll find in there, in the chapter, and it really made sense, because, not to give it too much away, but what it came down to is I was umpiring a game myself, and a play developed where I couldn't see everything, So I called time and went to go talk to the kids, and all you heard was everybody yelling and screaming, thinking that people were going to lie.
Oh boy.
So in that interaction, I had a little bit of opportunity, and said, "Hey, can you believe these adults?" I'm like, "I need some help here." I said, "We need to prove these guys wrong." And I asked them about that situation, and the kids were very honest with me. So what was even better is at the end of the game, I sat down, I did address, the families and everybody else about how they thought they were going to lie. And then I walked out and said, "Guys, here's a game ball because you were gentlemen. You knew how to be honest."
I love that. That is tremendous.
And that literally was the book. And I'm like, I got to stow that one away.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about timing, that you waited a really long time thinking about this book, but when the time was right, it just sort of flowed.
It did, because it wasn't in order. I knew the concept wise. I knew how I was going to do the concept just because of it being baseball.
Right.
I just knew that. It was just a matter of getting the stories and putting into where I was going to put them.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make sure that we started with courage, because in order to live life, in order to get involved in anything, you have to have courage. You have the courage to be alive. You have to be courage to go out and do something. You have to take those risks just to be you.
Right.
So that's why I started there, and then I made sure I ended with faith, because again, coming back, it also has to have that faith inside you to be doing the right things, to bringing your character to life, and doing that. So that's why I wanted to bracket that way. So the middle part was actually the speech. So
tremendous. And so I think that character is so important, and I think your book is so important for parents as a tool to open up those conversations. One thing I want to talk about though is that cover. Can we show the cover?
There we are.
So this awesome book, Honor the Diamond, but this illustration was drawn by...
I actually reached out, and family was a big part of everything. My oldest son, he helped me kind of conceptualize and how to put things together, about giving conflict and coming to a resolution.
Yes.
So with those two things that really came about, so he really helped me organize the stories that way. But when I wanted, part of it, I wanted to include my youngest son, who is a Marine, by the way, and for everybody out there that is in the military, including Miss Jennifer here, thank you for your time and your service. I never served myself, but I have much appreciation for you guys. So thank you for all the other military people that have served, and are and will serve. So thank you. He's a Marine, and I just looked at him. I said, "Look," I said, "I need your talent. I need your help." And I said, "I want you to kind of capture what's going on." And what's interesting is I gave him the idea. I wanted to kind of bring about a little bit more of I thought about more of people playing and pitching and some backgrounds. And he goes, "Dad, knock it off. That's too busy." Not a problem. Go at it. I want you to capture this. I want you to take a look. So what he did is he really did capture. And if you take a look, the diamond on the hat, even though it does look like a diamond, is actually also in the shape of the baseball field.
Yep.
So which is he really did. And to have it weathered, to take a look, it also talks about how we will weather things as well. So for me, if you guys really take a look, there is a lot of symbolism.
There is. And in fact, inside the book as well, didn't we repeat, we have a lot of design elements inside that mirror the whole baseball theme.
Right. Again, the theme itself, as opposed to chapters, they are set up in innings. The top of the first, bottom of the first. The page numbers, we take a look, are still that little diamond. But if you really take a look at it, and I'm going to explain it just a little bit more, is, again, as I said, where baseball is that, essence of life for me. Right. And it's about, hardships and overcoming obstacles and all. If you take a look, one of the precious items that people love, because, they're there, are diamonds. And diamonds are made out of pressure. Right. Which is exactly what life is. And when you're on the field, it builds so much character by making mistakes, coming back, and maybe you might have made an error in one inning, but coming back and you got a hit, and that was the winning run, all in the same game. That's what it's all about. And so if you take a look at it, you have the diamond itself that's referencing the baseball field. The diamond, also about life, is our character. That's right. Our character is our diamond, and that is meant by life experiences, life challenges, and what we do to overcome it. And that's kind of how this is really come about. So that's why the honor
The
is
diamond.
because you honor the experiences on the field, but also your experiences in life to create that character.
It's tremendous, and this is a wonderful book for parents or as a gift for a parent. Of course, it's available on Amazon.com or to order everywhere books are sold. We'll put the link in the description. And so, Brian, thank you so much for joining me today on my
thank you.
camper van adventure. And thank you, friends, for joining us. I'm Brian Altenbach, and like and subscribe for more. Thanks, friends. Have a great day. Bye-bye.